Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. And welcome, Jen. How are you?
Hello. I am well, happy to be back.
Yeah.
Ready for this topic.
Yeah,
Very important.
we are continuing in a way our presentation creation series,
Yes.
but we're not really in the creation phase much at this point. We've created slides if we thought they would be helpful. And now it's time to prepare with that content in mind. So this episode is going to be all about, well, how do you approach preparing for the event once your content's created?
Yes. How do you prepare? How do you practice with your content? It's practicing with the content.
In this, we talked about this a little bit. We've got to be really clear what we mean by practice, because there's really a couple ways to use that term, because you can practice content, which is what we're going to be talking about now. And part of that effort is to secure that content in you. So when it's time to present, you have very easy recall.
That's the key.
Yes, that's the key.
Easy recall.
But there's another kind of practice which we'll talk about in our next episode, which is just practicing your coordination system, the delivery kind of thing.
Yes.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Because you're so technical.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it.
It's good. It makes me laugh. It's great.
Well, I'm glad. I'm here to entertain you, and you keep me so honest, and I appreciate that. So
always.
All right. So practicing your content. Let's kick it off. What do we do?
This can be tricky. This can feel challenging because we can easily get into the mindset that we have to memorize our content. And if you try to memorize your content, first of all, it's going to sound memorized. You're probably going to drive yourself crazy. And if you forget what you need to say in the middle of your presentation because you memorized it, it's really going to throw you off. So it's not about memorizing. That's not the approach that I take. The approach that I coach to, Scott, is remember the key words. Just a key word that's going to trigger for you what you need to say next. So let me go a little bit deeper with that.
Okay.
So we've just created visuals. We've created slides that are for the audience. They're not too text heavy. They are to complement the message. So a trick with your slides is you can plug in a graphic, an image, or a word that's going to help keep you on track with your message. So this is only going to work if you have truly practiced, talked through your presentation, and then you just need that word or two to trigger for you what you need to say next.
Yeah. I love that. I talk about it slightly differently. It's so similar. I use the word download sometimes.
Of course you do.
Yeah, because it's technical. But you trigger a download. You trigger not a flow of perfect words like a script. And that's what I think you were talking about memorizing earlier. We are not actors when we present. And I know we want to be, because when we write a script, we can revise and edit and get the words all perfect, but that mindset doesn't work when you're in a situation where it's really conversational. You're standing in front of people and you're exchanging these thoughts with them. You're going to seem very, very rigid and kind of plastic if they see that you have this blank look in your eyes as you're trying to go, what's the next word? What's the next word?
And Scott, when your leadership interrupts you to ask a question about what you're talking about, it's going to completely throw you off track with your memorized script.
Right. So you've got triggers, like you said. Something on a slide can be a trigger. And then you have these things, these kind of downloads it's a bunch of words around an idea. I always tell people, don't worry so much about the perfect words, but do worry about the perfect ideas. Come prepared to talk about the perfect ideas to give to your audience.
Yes.
And in the situation when somebody's interrupting you, part of it is probably because you're clinging to a script. When a trigger, look, here's another great trigger for a download, by the way. Not your slides, not something you brought with you, but something that your audience says or does, something that a listener says or does. So if you're talking and there seems to be, for instance, somebody in the audience, if it's a small audience, shifts in their chair, they look like they have a thought, a reaction. That's a chance for you to stop and say, I can see that you're reacting to what I just said. I'd like to know what are your thoughts? And if you're prepared well, it's okay. We often think of their questions as derailing us, but that's only because you created rails.
Oh, that's a good point. I like
right?
that. Yes.
So I tell people, don't get stuck on those rails. If you come with an idea of the flow of what you want to say, but you're willing to let that flow change.
Yes, so that you can bring discussion into the presentation. So don't hang on, don't hang on to this plan or this script.
Right.
For the pres, think of it as, okay, I have the most important points that I need to make.
Yeah.
However, I want to allow questions and conversations so that it's productive for everyone.
Yeah.
And then as long as you have those points in mind, then you can always go back to them when you're ready to present again.
Exactly. And here's a little something, because I'm sure our listeners are thinking, well, so you're saying have a trigger, and then for a trigger, it triggers this sort of download, this flow of words and things around a thought. How do you remember that thought? And my advice is, at some point, forget writing doesn't exist. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Forget writing exists.
Does exist.
Yes.
Got it.
Double negative there. Try to forget that writing exists and just talk to yourself. Pretend there's no notes, there's nothing with you. You can, for instance, you have your phone with you. We talked about this before. You go on a walk and you've written down maybe some triggers or some ideas or key messages, but then go out and just talk through the idea over and over and over again. And once you do that, letting the words change, it's amazing how quickly you can actually secure the content. Does that resonate with you?
It does. 100%. I actually do that. I've mentioned this before. I love grabbing an index card and I'll just write a couple of bullets. Yeah. Really, I try to stick with only 1 or 2 words per bullet. And then I'll go out for a walk, and something magical happens when I'm outside practicing out loud what I want to say. Ideas come into my mind that I don't think would have come into my mind if I were sitting at home behind a desk. So, Scott, the other point I want to add to this is, even though we have a trigger and we know what we want to say to that key idea, we still need to speak very succinctly. We don't want to ramble for that one key idea. So a way to work around that piece to reduce the rambling and the overloading is, you have this key idea. What are the 1 or 2 main points that are the most important to speak about to that idea? Because the truth is, your audience, they're not going to remember everything you're saying. So you only want to share what's most important.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to just punctuate something here? What do you want to emphasize for our group when they're preparing to give a presentation?
Do not memorize.
Yeah.
Do not put that pressure on yourself, because it can feel really heavy. And focusing on those 1 or 2 key words that will trigger for you the idea. that you want to share. And I will give a tip around this in the virtual environment. When I'm presenting, I will write down those trigger words. I will tape them to the side of my monitor. No one can see them. And that's my little cheat sheet so that I don't forget.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love it. I would say just keep in mind that triggers can come from the audience, that don't get stuck on your rails. Don't think that it has to go in this order. This is not a script. It's not a written piece. You've got to move with the audience in terms of where their mind goes when they hear something, and stay with them because they determine what's relevant and meaningful, not you.
They're telling you what they're going to find valuable out of the conversation.
Right. And those are the most wonderful presentation experiences for an audience. You feel connected, present. The presenter sees you. They're not stuck in their head thinking about, what was that slide I thought I was going to,
They're taking care of their audience.
Yeah.
That's the key.
All right. So we already know what we're going to be covering next week.
Oh, I'm so in love with the topic of next week. It's how we show up. It's how we deliver. It's how we have self-awareness around our delivery.
And specifically how we develop that, right? How we practice to develop that.
And become aware. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Great work. Great work.
Scott.
Yeah. Have a good week.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Care.